everyone. My name is Polly Parks. I'm part of the group of people who put together this event. So welcome to our Healthcare Careers event. What we have for you guys today is a handful of El Camino College alumni students who either were pursuing nursing or respiratory care. Thank you all for joining us. We're going to start with a quick introduction of some of the faculty, deans, directors that are here, and counselors. So if you're one of those people, feel free to unmute and just say hi, who you are real quick. And then after that, we will go ahead and start our event. So I'll go first. Hi, everyone. I'm Polly Parks. I am a microbiology professor here at ELCO.
Hello, everybody. Russell Sir, Dean of Health Science and Athletics. Welcome.
I'm Professor Roy Makaru. I'm the Program Director for the Respiratory Care.
I'm Van Nguyen, one of the counselors from Health and Community Wellness. Welcome.
My name's Stephanie Bennett. I am a counselor with Health and Community Wellness as well.
Hi, my name is Danielle Roman, and I'm an instructor in kinesiology, and I'm the strength and conditioning coach.
Hi, everyone. My name is Carla Velasquez Lopez, and I am the outreach person. So I'm the one that's been bugging you on your texts and your emails.
Hi, I'm Dr. Wanda Morris. I am the director of the nursing department.
I'm Janice Pani Shikawa. I'm a counselor in the health and community wellness area. Hi, everyone.
Anyone else want to introduce themselves? Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started here. So the first thing is we're going to have our panelists introduce themselves, tell us a little bit about themselves, and then we'll go into a planned question and answer portion. And then at the end, we'll have some breakout rooms.
Okay, so hi everyone, good morning. My name is Melina Odin. I am currently in an accelerated Bachelor's of Science in Nursing program at Mount St. Mary's University. And I am happy to be here and hopefully answer your questions in a way that you get some cool information. So thank you.
All right, good morning, everybody. My name is Ian Jenkins. I graduated from the respiratory care program in 2008 from El Camino College, and I've worked at Children's Hospital Los Angeles since. So this will be my 13th year, and I joined the faculty for the respiratory care program last year. So I've been doing that for a year, and hopefully I can answer some questions and be of benefit to those who have joined us. Nice to meet everybody.
Hello, everyone. My name is Stephen English. I recently graduated El Camino College's nursing program in spring of 2020, and I'm currently working as a registered nurse on a respiratory step-down unit at Sentinel Hospital in Inglewood. Happy to be here. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Irene. I'm currently in an accelerated bachelor's program at Cal State LA. I too attended El Camino about 2 years ago to complete my prereqs, and I'm happy to be here and answer any questions that you all may have.
Hi, hello everyone. My name is Brianna Gonzalez. I graduated from ECC back in 2016. I transferred to Cal State Long Beach Nursing Program, where I graduated in 2018. I've been working as a registered nurse ever since, so it's been 2 years now. Currently work at Long Beach Memorial, and I'm happy to be here this morning.
Okay, so the first question for our panel today will be, what inspired you to pursue the healthcare field? And we'll hear from Ian first.
I would have to say when I was, I guess, fresh out of high school, I really didn't have a like a solid direction in terms of what I wanted to do in terms of career. And with a couple of conversations that I had with friends, healthcare had come up, and I was kind of iffy about it initially. However, once I reached out to Dr. Sinopoli for the respiratory care program, and subsequently when I met the rest of the faculty, I knew I made the right decision. So the openness, the friendliness, the energy, and knowing that I would be able to help people, help families as a team, and also have a dynamic work environment, it really ticked all the boxes for me. And it has been one of the best decisions I've made. And I'm just excited today as I was when I first started. So I'm thoroughly enthusiastic about the field and always encouraging others to take it into consideration.
Thank you, Ian. Now, Melina.
Okay, thank you. So what inspired me was initially, it's a kind of a long twist and turn story for me. But growing up, I always thought I'm going to be an obstetrician, like that's what I'm going to do. So when I went to college initially for my undergrad, I was pre-health, but I also was a medical anthropology minor. And so during that time, I took classes where I learned about childhood, birth, and reproduction in other cultures. And I was like, it blew my mind, honestly, because I was like, people give birth differently. Like, it sounds crazy, like, duh, of course they do give birth differently and like raise their children differently in other cultures across the globe. But I had literally never thought about it. I was just like, oh, what I see on a baby story on TLC is like how everyone does it. Like, you go in, you get your epidural, and then you have your baby. So I took that class, and it kind of like threw me for a loop, because I was like, and I learned about like how different and how natural birth can be outside of the hospital, that I didn't want to be a part of that system or that environment anymore. So I was lost for a while trying to figure out what I did want to do. But ultimately, I decided on being a nurse midwife. So that gave me a little bit more options. And the main reason that I want to be a nurse midwife is because most people know now about the horrible morbidity and mortality rates of Black people in the United States when they give birth and have their babies. And I learned about that in college during that same class. And it broke my heart. It made me angry. It made me upset. And I know I'm only one person, but I feel like as a midwife, I can do my part to help make a change in those statistics, so that people that look like me and other people of color don't have to be afraid to have their children wherever they choose to have their children, whether it's the hospital, at home, at a birth center. So that's what inspired me. So hopefully I can be a little piece of change in our world.
Thank you, Melina. And thank you, Ian. And let's hear from Irene, please.
Hi, everyone. So similar to what Melina said, I was really inspired by the inequities that you see in healthcare. So for me, I completed an undergrad degree back in 2014. And at the time, I thought I was going to be a speech therapist. But I volunteered for a bit in a hospital, and I decided, I want something a little bit more dynamic, something that's not as focused within one discipline. I thought something that had a lot of changes would be a better fit for me, which is why I went into nursing. But again, something that really drew me to that was seeing how much inequity there is in healthcare. I mean, growing up, I grew up in Linwood. I'm not sure if anyone's familiar where that is. It's next to Compton. I saw where my family went to get care and how their experience was, how there were many language barriers, how they didn't really understand their plan of care, and how they really relied on someone who knew the language to really, or who had some level of education to interpret things for them. And so as a nurse, and as any role in healthcare, you actually you advocate for your patients. So I think that that's something that really drew me in. And my current goal is to become a family nurse practitioner. Like I said, I'm currently in the ABSN program, so I will be done and I will take the NCLEX later this year, which is the exam to get your license. But I've already been accepted into a grad program to become a nurse practitioner. And I want to work with those communities so that I can go ahead and explain to them in terms that they understand what the status of their health is and what their options are, instead of just saying, okay, this is the problem in a bunch of jargon, and this is what we're going to do. No, I want to be able to talk with everyone individually and ask if they have any questions, and see and actually present options to them and present the pros and cons in order to give them the power to make those decisions for themselves.
Thank you, Irene. And let's hear from Stephen now, please.
All right. So initially, I wanted to be either a researcher or a pulmonologist. So I went to UCSD and got an undergrad degree in physiology and neuroscience. And after I kind of dragged my way through that, I realized my heart really wasn't in medical school anymore. And along the way, I participated in this volunteer internship that's now called Cope Health Scholars, I believe. And I really got to see the relationship between nurses and patients and how much time they were actually able to spend with the patients, taking care of them, listening to them, versus the doctors who kind of walked in, made some decisions, and then just left, which, no offense to that, but really seeing the relationship between nurses and patients, I thought I could see myself doing that. And also the flexibility was really attractive, especially compared to what medical school would have entailed. And then also my grandmother was a nurse for 23 years, so she kind of nudged me in that direction, encouraged me to enroll in ECC, and here I am.
Thank you, Stephen. And Brianna, can we hear from you, please?
You're muted.
There we go. Sorry. I first was introduced to life sciences when I took a course in high school for anatomy, and I really enjoyed that class. We had some cool dissections. So when I was at El Camino, I decided to kind of pursue, I wasn't too sure what kind of healthcare direction I wanted to go to. So I just started off doing actually dental hygiene. And while I was in school, I was able to volunteer at hospitals. I did a lot of volunteering to kind of help narrow down what I wanted to do. Similar to the previous panelists, I saw the interaction between, the healthcare team, a nurse, and patients. And I also first-handedly saw the discrepancies between patients not being represented in healthcare. I volunteered at a little company in Mary here in Torrance, and there was a lot of Latino patients, and most of the doctors didn't even speak Spanish. So even as a volunteer, I'd be pulled aside to kind of help interpret. And, little 19-year-old me, I didn't know a lot of medical jargon. And that kind of inspired me to pursue a field in nursing where I can help represent my community and help out, represent the population in healthcare as well.
Thank you, Brianna.
All right, so the second question's a little long. What were some of the biggest challenges you overcame along your academic path? Were there any resources you utilized that helped you overcome them? So we'll start with Melina.
One of the biggest challenges, I'm sure there were many, but the one that immediately comes to mind was at the time that I was doing my prereq coursework to ultimately, apply to the ABSN program. So I was doing classes at El Camino. I was doing classes at Santa Monica. I was doing classes like everywhere. But at the same time, I was working full time and I was doing like 9-hour days. So that was a challenge, to get up in the morning, go to work for 7, hopefully. Like, I didn't always get there on time because it was just a struggle. I'm going to be honest. Then go to work all day until 4:30, leave from there, and then go straight to like a pre-wet course. So like maybe Professor Park's microbiology class, which I loved her class. That was, it kind of made me want to be a microbiologist, to be honest. I was like, this is cool. Why didn't I think about this before? but unfortunately for microbiology, I picked nursing. But yeah, and then have those classes until like 9 or 10 at night, study, and then get up and repeat the whole process over again was incredibly challenging. There were nights where I just wanted to sit there and cry because I was just so tired and just so worn out. So that was definitely the biggest challenge that's sticking out in my mind, was just like exhaustion. And resources that I utilized, just like knowing that it's okay to feel how I feel and like just take a moment for myself to like chill and relax. That was like the main thing, because it was like you can't drive yourself you can only drive yourself into the ground for so long before you snap or you break. So I made sure to like just sit sometimes, and just, for me, just like sitting and staring at the wall is like relaxing to me. So I would just sit there. I'm like, I'm not doing anything. I'm not thinking about anything. I'm going to sit here and just be in the moment. So that was something that I did. And of course, my family was really helpful. They would like make sure I was eating and, you know, those important things that you got to do to stay alive. So that was definitely the main challenge.
Irene?
So like Melina said, one of the biggest challenges was definitely to try to juggle everything, you know, working full time and then going and having a late class. I was trying to stay healthy. So I would get up at like 5:30 in the morning to go to the gym 3 times a week, then go to work that started at 8, and then have class, and then get home at like 11, and then do it again every weekday. I think for me specifically, other challenges were that when I started my prereqs, I wasn't very confident in my ability to get accepted into nursing school. I'm going to be very honest. I graduated my undergrad program with like a 2.8, and a lot of schools require you to have a 3.0. So when I first started, I was thinking, okay, I have to get straight A's in my prereqs. I have to, like, there's no room for mistakes. There's a lot of pressure. And what ended up happening was that I was taking classes at a different community college prior to El Camino. I took nutrition, but I took it in the winter. So it was a 1-month course. And of course, life happened. My mom got sick. She was hospitalized on the day that I had a bunch of stuff due. And I had been working overtime that entire week. So my grade went down, and I ended up with like a C in the class, not low enough for me to retake the course, but also not high enough for me to start off being competitive. So I definitely got started on the wrong foot, and I did manage to secure all A's. But then what I learned as I was applying, at least to nursing school, is that they are sometimes very, depending on the kind of program you want to do, they are very interested in your undergrad GPA, which to me does not make sense, because that's not reflective of who I am now in this moment. It's not reflective of who I was as an applicant. So that really sucked. So there was a lot of, those are some of the biggest challenges, and the resources that I used to overcome them is just, you really have to look deep inside yourself and find that strength that you might not even know you have. I think, like Melina said, you really have to focus on taking care of yourself, because if not, you will crumble and it's not going to be fun. I recommend, if you're into meditation, do that, because at that point you might realize that some things that seem like a big deal might not be, and it's going to help you shift your focus. And if you have any like close friends or family, use them as well. I don't know what I would have done without my close friends who had the patience to deal with me at that point in time, because I was, I was tired, I was cranky, like for those 2-3 years. And if you're able to, I would also, and if you're really struggling with stress, I would encourage going to therapy. I know that there's still some stigma around it, but I did it because I just felt like I need some intervention. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm putting in all this work and I don't know if I'm going to be accepted. And it might just all feel like it might be for nothing. And it's so stressful. And actually the period after I submitted my apps was in a way the most stressful, because I wasn't taking classes. So now I'm just sitting there waiting and waiting. And, this might be the case for some of you, but I had classmates who also were applying to nursing school. So I've seen them in class. I've seen their strengths, their weaknesses. I know what I'm up against. So it's also really intimidating. So again, you can do it. I mean, I did it. I have faith that all of you can reach your goals. But again, just remember to take care of yourself, because that should always come first.
Stephen?
Well, for me, like Melina and Irene said, time management was a huge thing. I also had come from having an undergrad degree where I didn't do so hot. So my confidence wasn't the best. I had familiarity with science, but at that point I was fully convinced when I first started prereqs and then the program, I was pretty solidly convinced that I did not know how to learn. And then when nursing exams kicked in and those select all that apply and which orange is the most orange kind of questions happened, it kind of solidified that. So I very quickly had to kind of experiment, do some internal research and figure out, okay, how was I going to get this information inside of myself and make it mine? Because I knew that's what I needed to do in order to be successful. And then, yeah, time management was so crucial. I also worked, I was fortunate in a way that I worked at Starbucks, so I had unlimited access to coffee, but then my shifts also started at 3:30 in the morning. So there was that whole trade-off. And then in terms of stress management, I relied very heavily on hot yoga. So I would just kind of like run myself all day, be like a little ball of stress, and then just kind of melt it all away at the end of the day, get a few hours of sleep, and then get up and do it again. Definitely, I think the working versus not working, that's kind of like a big thing for a lot of people. Some people don't necessarily have the option not to work. For me, I decided to work because coming from my undergrad where I focused solely on school, and then when it wasn't going so well, it was really difficult for me in terms of my mental health, because I was putting all my energy and time into this one thing. And when that wasn't working out, I had nothing else in my life to fall back on to say, hey, you know what, you're doing all right. So with the nursing program, I was like, okay, I'm going to give myself something built in where I'm going to have to focus away from nursing and go make these people's lattes. And at least no matter what happened with that quiz, no matter what happened with that math test, like at least the lattes were good today. So I kind of had some sort of balance that way. And that was helpful for me. And in terms of resources, really utilize your professors, because honestly, in my experience, El Camino has some great professors, and they're just so happy to have somebody that's actively engaged and asking questions and wants to learn, that like if you show that interest and show that engagement, like the benefit will come back to you like at least 3 to 10-fold. So that's what I got.
Brianna?
So I think the beginning challenge for me when I started El Camino was figuring out what major I wanted to do. I feel like it's normal. We kind of change our minds. We're debating. And so that kind of took a little bit. I think after I decided to become a nursing major, I knew what I wanted to do, but how am I going to get there? You know, there's a lot of nursing programs. The majority of them are very competitive in nature. Kind of how the other panelists were saying, they mainly focus on your GPA. So what I decided to do is I spread out my science classes so I could focus on one at a time, so I can try to at least do the best I could with focusing on one class. You know, sometimes there's also the stigma of a 4-year degree. Unfortunately for me, it took 5.5 years to get that BSN, that Bachelor's of Nursing. So I, kind of have to digest, and, this is the process. And as long as we get there, that's kind of what mattered to me. Another thing that was difficult for me is I first attempted to transfer out of El Camino, and I got rejected from Cal State Long Beach. So then I used some of the resources. I was involved in FYE. I was involved in the honors transfer program, and I also worked in the outreach office. So I knew a lot of people. I had a lot of resources. I kind of regrouped with my counselors, my professors, seeing what I can do to improve my application. When I reapplied the following semester, I applied to Cal State LA and Cal State Long Beach and El Camino's program as well, because I think what was important, I learned the first time, is you can't put all your eggs in one basket. It's important to look at all your resources that we have. El Camino offers so many different programs that will help support you. I attended every workshop I could find. I attended all the open houses for all the application programs. And so when I finally applied the second time around, I was actually able to get into all of them. which kind of helped also narrow down. Now I have options. I think once you got accepted to a program, there's like a sigh of relief. But I think the difficult part was the whole transferring process. And then with a lot of these healthcare fields is that you have to actually get accepted into a program, which I didn't know about at the time when I first started out community college.
Ian?
All right, so I think the biggest challenge for me was the feeling that there wasn't enough time in each day, right? So 24 hours was nice, but it definitely wasn't enough. There's the way it initially felt. And so I think I had to regroup and, I guess you could say prioritize my time management. And I would try to, I don't want to say cut corners by any means, but what I had to do was, again, strategize, organize, and then stick to the plan. So in terms of resources that I use to utilize and take advantage of the time that I did have, the 24 hours that I did have, first things first, I would say I would study. And then when I would get tired of studying, so whether I was on break at work or if I was at home or if we're in lab, I was studying. So what I would do is I would, at that point, when I would meet with professors during class or meet with professors during lab time, I would have a think tank with them to try to optimize and speed up the learning process, because I would try to get ahead as much as possible. And then I would just have a in-depth conversation about said topic with the professors. And that really started to gain traction almost immediately, which I really appreciated. And the professors I felt were going above and beyond, which I really appreciated at El Camino. And then also I was working full time at Torrance Memorial in the distribution department. So delivering IV pumps and supplies and whatnot. So that ate up a lot of my time as well. And I also like to exercise, and there really wasn't much time for that. So what I ended up doing was on days that I didn't have lab or I didn't have any sort of clinical rotation, I would ride my bike from home in Gardena to Torrance Memorial and then ride it back home. And then so that was a good way to exercise, just relax, and then, just decompress and just have some alone time to go ahead and just relax and just enjoy the process. And once I did that, I was able to not feel so overwhelmed, and everything was more of a day-by-day process. And then before I knew it, the program was done. And looking back, I realized that I was stressing out over nothing, but I think we all feel that way once you accomplish anything in life. But again, I think it makes the process that much more enjoyable.
Okay. The third question is, what advice would you have given yourself when you were just starting out? And let's start with Irene, please.
So again, have faith in yourself. You are capable of more than you probably even realize, and you won't know it until you reach those goals. I also really recommend knowing yourself and knowing your style. And I think some of the panelists have already alluded to this, but that's really important because that's always going to play a role in your education. Even once you're in your program of choice, you're still going to see how other people work. And you might think like, well, am I doing something wrong? Like, I can tell you even now, in nursing school, my cohort is only 30 people. So it's small for a nursing program. And I see people who, they'll have fun, like they go exercise outdoors and they seem to have all the time in the world. And then they do things last minute, but it works for them. And I look at them and I'm like, should I do that? Like, is that something I'm interested in to help balance things out? But it does not work for me. And I've come to accept that. I'm the kind of person who prefers to do a little bit every day and have some time in the evening or afternoon to read or go for a run. I just can't do that whole cram everything into one day. But again, that works for some people. So you really have to figure that out. And time management is key. Really prioritize and learn what are the important things, and if there are things that you can speed up. Like for instance, I was trying to eat healthy while completing my prereqs, and I was trying to eat at home and not eat out much, but there were times where I had to compromise and think, okay, maybe I'll grab Subway today. Like, it's not, again, it's better to eat at home. I'm sure Subway isn't as healthy as it seems, but again, I had to know where to make those trade-offs and when to use a shortcut to save myself some time. Like for instance, if I had to choose between cooking at home and studying for an exam that I had like in 2 days, exam would take priority. I could I could correct my eating habits later. So again, just really think about what's important to you and just remember, like, you can do it. Again, I did not go into this feeling very confident, yet here I am. I got accepted into my #1 program, and I'm actually co-president of the cohort, and I'm also accepted into my master's program, and I've been doing well. So again, if I can do it, I feel like everyone here can do it as well.
Thank you, Irene. Stephen, can we hear from you?
Yes. So my advice would be to not be afraid to ask questions, and like when you get to hit those sticky spots in your learning, which everybody does. Probably in every class, there's going to be something where you're just like, wait, I don't quite get that, and then you're afraid to ask a question, and the material just kind of goes on. Those sticky spots will become like bigger, messier spots later on if you ignore them. So don't be afraid to seek clarification and ask questions. And also, don't be afraid to take advantage of every opportunity. Like in clinicals, volunteer to do that skill, volunteer to give that med, watch that procedure, what have you, because those things are going to come up when you're a nurse or a practitioner later on, and you don't want it to be your first time having any exposure to something is when you're on the floor and you're having to get it done, because if you don't have that IV access, then you're not going to be able to give this med to save the patient's life or what have you. So always take those chances and seize those opportunities when you're in clinicals, when you're with your professors or your nurses or what have you. And then other opportunities, like if you get into the nursing program here at El Camino, you're going to get a lot of emails from Dr. Morris throughout your program about different scholarship opportunities, different work experience, the nursing club. Try to get involved in as much as possible within reason. You obviously have to know yourself and what you could handle time-wise. But a few of the things that I am very grateful that I pushed myself to get involved in are the concurrent enrollment program. So we have a deal with Cal State Dominguez Hills where I was able to start my bachelor's in the summer between, I think, 2nd and 3rd is when I started it. So I'm already kind of guaranteed in acceptance into that program, and I should be finished actually with it in August or December. Also, getting involved in the nursing club was a great way to get involved and kind of get exposure to leadership and public speaking and skills that you're gonna need to be an effective nurse and an effective leader in the future. And also, if you have the time and you're trying to choose a job for nursing school, if you can become a CNA after your 2nd semester, little company, Torrance Memorial, there's a bunch of different options, but that will really help you gain comfort in the hospital environment and also get your foot in the door when you're looking to get that first job. So that's my advice. Be brave.
Thank you, Stephen. And Brianna, can we hear from you now?
Yeah, those are some really good tips of advice, Stephen. Same thing. I think work experience is, of course, you need to know your boundaries and set your limits, but you should definitely try to say yes to every opportunity that comes your way, whether it's an internship, volunteering. There's a lot of info sessions such as this one. As much as knowledge you can accumulate, it's helping, just build up your what you know and what advice people are giving you. I think it was also very important for me to kind of stay away. There's a lot of, pressure time-wise to try to stick to a certain timeline for school, try to get your bachelor's in 4 years, transfer out in 2 years. I think these STEM majors, these healthcare majors are much more different. They don't really follow that timeline. So it's kind of important, take your time, get as much experience opportunity as you can. And also kind of touching on that self-care, this is health. Most of these jobs that we're talking about, they're healthcare jobs. You're working with people, you're serving people. You're going to be experiencing a lot of, people who are not feeling their best. It might be you're taking care of somebody on their worst day. So it's important too to get that self-care for yourself, and knowing how to separate, your job later on from your work, from your personal life as well. Learning to distress and getting all that self-care. If you can start it early, start getting some good healthy habits going on, it will definitely help you in the long run when you're already working and out of school.
Thank you, Brianna. And now Ian, please.
I would say, I think first things first, trust the process. A lot of people have done it before you, and a lot of people are going to do it after you, right? So if you have mentors, if you have professors that are guiding you in a certain direction, listen, learn how to listen. Listen to understand, don't listen to reply, okay? Embrace humility, because it's not about being right or wrong. It's about being a patient advocate and doing what's best for the patient and their family. And lastly, I would say, remember your why. Why did you get into this in the first place? Why do you continue to do it, right? So I think those are the three things that kind of stand out to me the most. And it keeps you grounded, keeps you humble, and it keeps your perspective straight, and it makes you, I think, well, at least for me, it makes me a better team member and a more approachable person. And I think it's benefited me immensely. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. And now Melina, please.
Okay, so everyone already gave super fabulous advice. So the only thing I can add to that is that when I was doing my prereqs, advice that I would give myself would be to take more breaks, like to just have time for myself. Like during quarantine, which was after I did my prereqs, but before nursing school, I got into like house plants. So like they're everywhere, and like that's my break time. It's just to chill and like look and see how they're doing, make sure there's no like pests on them, water them, fertilize them, whatever it is. That's like my cool chill time. So I feel like that's really important. And I didn't do that so well when I was doing my prereqs. I'm doing much better with it now though, which is great. Also, when I was doing my prereqs, I would tell myself to be confident in my abilities, because like that's what I tell myself all the time. It's like, you can do whatever you set your mind to, Melina. Like, if you say you can't do it, you're not going to do it. But if you believe in yourself, you're going to get it done. So it's like the pep talk I have in the back of my head most days. Just like, don't sell yourself short. Like, you can do whatever you want to do. You're great. Even though I don't always feel that way. And it doesn't always work. But it's just something that I do. And then now that I'm in nursing school, at the very beginning, which was not that long ago since it is an accelerated program, I probably would tell myself to just be down to do anything and everything that you feel confident and capable of doing. Like if you did it in skills lab already, you've seen a nurse do the procedure or whatever it is a few times in clinical, like be open to being like, yes, I would love to do that. Because that's something like at the beginning, I was like, oh, I don't know. Like, yeah, and I feel pretty confident. Like, I think I can do it. But like, yeah, of course, we want your patients to be safe, but it's also a learning experience on how to like communicate with your patients, talk to them, and best take care of them, because every patient's going to be different, right? So, but just be down to do whatever your nurse is comfortable with you doing, because that's something that I like whenever I go to clinical and I get a new nurse that I'm shadowing and they're like, oh, what are you able to do? And pretty much we're able to do most things. I'm just like, I'm able to do whatever you're comfortable with me doing, because that just me saying like, I will do whatever there is that I can possibly do. If we're doing a Foley today, let's go. We're doing an IV today, let's go. Let's do it. So like, just be down to do everything, because that's how you learn. And then also I would say the final thing is don't worry so much about what other people are doing. I think Irene brought that up before, and I think that's really good advice, because again, like she was saying, you'll see your classmates like living it up, going to weddings, like going out to eat, even though we're in quarantine. You're like, what are they doing? And you're like, how are they getting their stuff done? How are they studying? Don't worry about that. Do whatever has been working for you. Just keep doing it. Don't worry yourself about how other people are getting things done. Just do you. So, yeah.
Thank you, Melina.
Can I just, Roy, before you go to I think we have one more question. For each of you guys are giving amazing advice, by the way, it's amazing. But I just wanted to, if you guys could just in a 1 or 2 word answer, you've already kind of touched on it, a bunch of you, about not being, not caught up in the myth of how long it took you to get into your program. Can you guys all tell the group, each of you from start out of high school, how long it took you to get, because it gives everybody, we talk about this in nursing info sessions all the time, because students are like, it's taking forever. So just to be realistic, like how long did it take each of you to get into your program? Because accelerated programs are different. It's a good variety here. So I'm just to give the students a perspective. And you can start with Irene. This order right here is fine. Sorry.
So from the time I finished high school to now, I would honestly say it's like a good 10 years.
Yeah, I finished high school in 2006. I'd say it took me about maybe 9 years to get my first bachelor's. So I've been in school for a while. Yeah.
Brianna. Sorry, I stopped adding names. Brianna.
I was at El Camino for 3 years. So I was at El Camino for 3 years. And then I transferred to Cal State Long Beach. My nursing program was 5 semesters, so it was 2.5 years. So overall, from beginning to end, took 5.5 years.
Let me see. So I graduated high school in 2000. And then I took a little bit of time off. And once I got back into going to school, I basically kind of hopped around in terms of majors. I was very into computers. I still am. I wanted to do computer science. And then I sat down with the counselor because I was already coding and whatnot. Then I sat down with the counselor and it was a lifetime of math classes. And I was like, oh yeah, that's not really my style. I really wasn't into it. And I have a little, I guess, a confession to make. So I did everything to get into the nursing program. So I finished all my prereqs, right? So I remember I finished all my prereqs, had my packet, went over to the nursing office, and I was like, hey, look, I finished all my stuff. Here you go. Here's the proof. Sign me up. And they said, okay, cool. Yeah, we'll call you in about 2 to 3 years. And I said, wait a minute. Am I supposed to just sit around? Like, wait a minute. So what I ended up doing was, I remember I went to work that day. I was working at Torrance Memorial, and my coworker said, hey, what about respiratory? I said, who? What? I didn't even know what he was talking about. And he said, oh no, my friend just graduated from the respiratory program. He loved it. And so I was like, wait, who? So he was like, the department around the corner. I was like, oh, the loud guys? And so long story short, I looked up and I researched who was in charge of the respiratory program at El Camino. And I sent an email, make sure my punctuation was good to go and my grammar was correct. And long story short, we had a phone call. I was in the office the next week. And I took the prereqs for respiratory care. And then soon after that, luckily there was no wait list at the time. I was able to get in immediately. And then I graduated in 2008.
Cool.
For me, I graduated high school in 2010, right?
Sorry. Yeah.
I'm asking you guys yeah, it was 2000. And then undergrad, I was at USC for 5 years. That took a while because the whole quarter life crisis happened where I was like, I don't want to be an obstetrician anymore. What am I going to do? And I was already a junior at that time. So I was there until 2015. Then I started working in the meantime to figure out what do I want to do? For a while, I thought I was going to do film or television or something like that. So I took some classes in that, didn't like that. Then started looking into midwifery. I did doula training, birth doula training. I worked as a volunteer doula for a little bit while I was working, and then ultimately started this program to 2019. So it's been like 10, 11 years from high school. But yeah.
Thanks for sharing, you guys. I really appreciate it because, like I said, your stories are amazing, and I just want them to have a good idea of what each of you went through. So thank you so much.
Polly, can I say one thing before?
Sure, Roy, yeah.
Real quick, I'm Professor Roy McCarr, the director of the Respiratory Care Program. Well done, all of you. Well done, panel members. I just want to point out one thing to all the people who are here that we have. It was mentioned, we have a fantastic counseling department here. You don't have to do this alone. They will help you with your classes. They will direct you to the fastest way through. Some of them are online here, Stephanie and Janice. I don't know who else is here. So I'm just letting you know there are some counselors here. Please utilize them. We also have a fantastic, really tremendous financial aid program here as well. So you're going, oh, I can't afford this. How am I going to do this? There are people here who can help you with that as well as far as resource. So I just want to point that out today too. If you have those questions, the counselors are here to help answer, if they can, some of your questions too. Now I turn it back over to Polly. Thank you.
Okay. So you guys should have got like a little notification somewhere on your screen. Maybe it looks like this picture here, but we're going to spend the rest of our time together. So about 30, 35 minutes in breakout rooms.